After pulling off 5 armored truck robberies in a span of 11 months and getting away with over $500,000 in cash, a robbery crew comprised of rival hoods starts to get greedy and are unaware of the mistakes that they made along the way. As the feds start to close in, the back door is seemingly open. Some members start popping up with bullets in their head, while others go on the run. And some rather have a shootout with the police before going back to prison.
There's some people that are robbing armored cars.
Of course.
That are coming out guns a-blazing.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
I don't think that's you.
No.
I don't think that's you.
Rap news, street politics, and we back with season 2 of How to Rob with the best hood channel on YouTube. Everything that we speaking on in this video is for educational purposes only. We don't condone any acts of violence or robbery. Viewer discretion is advised. We going through the most prolific robbery teams and flock crews coming out the city of LA. But in season 2, we leaving behind the jewelry. No play extenders. We bringing no merchandise back after the move, trying to sell it for pennies on a dollar. We hitting straight cash. But you know how we do. We also got to critique how these dudes is getting down and how they ended up in front of the feds. We got a team coming out the west side of LA between some enemies turned friendlies, the Black Peachstones and the West Boulevard Crips, who like to lay the armored truck guards down while they're servicing the ATM. We got somebody's 61-year-old grandfather on the move. After doing 27 years in the feds for a previous bank robbery, he had enough time to realize he was a one-man crew, and he jumps back outside, also laying the armored truck guard down. We also got some Samoan Pirus coming out of Carson, the ones that rather take a life before giving it up when the feds start to close in. But we got to start it on the west side with 2 brothers who were at the top of the food chain of a robbery crew called the Chesapeake Bandits. We got 37-year-old Denavis Hobson, also known as Nobby or Lil Trey from Black Peachstone Bloods, the Jungles. Now Nobby brings some impressive credentials to his team, being on the bank robbery team all the way back when he was 15 years old. He sat down for 17 years, released at 32, and he's back out looking to perfect his craft. Next up, we got his little brother, 35-year-old James Davis Jr., also known as Puda or Rose from West Boulevard Crib. Puda and his father are the reason why they're called the Chesapeake Bandits. Puda stayed on Chesapeake Avenue between 30th and 29th, in the middle of the West Boulevards. And this is where the crew set up shop and dispatch from on every move. Puda also brings some felony accolades, previously being arrested for ATM theft, receiving stolen property, and possession of burglary tools. Next up, we got another young homie coming out the West Boulevards, 30-year-old JD Young, also fresh out of a 12-year prison sentence. JD, who's also part of another clique inside of West Boulevard called ABM. He goes by ABM Jesus, and he's looking to play ball fresh out of state prison. Now, right next to JD, we got his right-hand man, 39-year-old Zeph Rocco from East Coast Crib. Now, Zeph also brings some impressive credentials to the team. Being convicted of second-degree robbery and carjacking back in 2005, he did a 15-year sentence, and he's back outside looking to run his bag up. Last but not least, we got 33-year-old DeIsaac Jones. Now, DeIsaac's gang affiliation is unknown. He stayed in the Nutty Blocks, but he's a barber and made his way to West Adams and found himself a part of this robbery crew. Now, with everybody part of the crew being convicted felons and ex-convicts, and with some of the members meeting behind them walls in prison, it didn't take long for the Chesapeake Bandits to put together a plan of action. And with the Central District of California being one of the most targeted places for bank robberies, with over 4,000 in the Central District alone in the last 20 years, this seemed like a safe place to start. But there's common misconceptions that go along with stealing from the armored money truck. Now, one argument that a lot of crews make is that when they hit the truck, the money belongs to the truck company, whether it be Loomis, Sectran, or Brinks. Some people have the misconception that this money is not property of a financial institution. But things get muddy when you decide to hit this armored truck while they're maintaining an ATM at a federally regulated institution. And this is where we find ourselves at 8:48 in the morning, On January 24, 2022, at the Westcom Financial Credit Union on Crenshaw and 120th in the city of Hawthorne. In the drive-through ATM, we have an armored truck driver, an employee of SecTrans Security. He's outside of his armored truck and he's collecting cash from Westcom's drive-through ATM. As he's handling his business, there's a white Chevy Tahoe that's been sitting in the parking lot of Westcom for over an hour. Sitting inside that white Tahoe in the passenger seat is Nobby from BPS. The owner of the white Tahoe and the driver is his half-brother, Puda, from West Boulevard. They've circled Westcom and they've waited for the SecTrans security truck to make its rounds as it does every Monday at the same time. They've driven behind the truck and they can be seen taking pictures from the white Tahoe of the SecTrans employee as he's servicing the ATM. While Nobby and Puda are casing this bank in hopes to strike at this location, they're unaware of a Westcom employee who's the physical security analyst that just so happened to be at this specific branch on this day, has been watching them circle the parking lot for over an hour. This employee notices the pattern of the casing and calls the police. Unaware of this phone call, Nobby and Puda pull out the parking lot going west on 120th and then again northbound on Crenshaw where they're pulled over. Now at the time, they haven't committed a crime. Police are not overly curious as to what they've been planning, but they do ask for identification. Both Nobby and Puda present driver's licenses with the Chesapeake Avenue address in the West Boulevard Crips. Police notate this address as both of their primary residencies, and Nobby and Puda are let go to handle their business. Now, casing a location and a potential target is a mandatory step, especially when it comes to these crews that's taking their craft seriously. But this specific mission that Nobby and Puda went on was somewhat of a failure. Under no circumstances should they have came into contact with the police on this case. The security analyst for Westcom stated that they were in the parking lot for over an hour. That's the first red flag. No regular customer at the bank is going to be circling the parking lot for an hour, taking pictures at the bank while somebody is servicing the ATM. That was an easy irregularity to spot. Now, this specific parking lot has other businesses around it. There's a Starbucks here, other restaurants, but it's still not the biggest location. Sitting on top of the bank for an hour is a no-go. For educational purposes only, there's other vantage points that Nobby and Puda should have used to evade detection. They honestly should have spent no more than 10 to 15 minutes in the parking lot. SecTrans Security visits this location every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If they felt like they needed an hour, they should have broke that hour up into multiple days. But as we continue to follow the Chesapeake Bandits, this move right here could be costly in the end. But after the traffic stop, Puda and Nobby returned back to Chesapeake Avenue in the West Boulevards. They felt like this case was successful and they began planning the actual move. And this is where we find ourselves exactly 2 weeks later, Valentine's Day, Monday, February 14th, 2022. The same SecTrans armored truck driver is back at this location at the same time, shortly before 9 a.m. in the morning. He's back outside of his truck, servicing the machine, when he notices a white car pull up behind him. This white car is a Honda with 4 occupants that came to a stop on the other side of the ATM where the armored truck vehicle was parked, in the manner that the guard said looked suspicious. As he turns back to the ATM, 3 men jump out of the Honda and put an AR-15 to the back of the guard's head. They told him not to try anything or they gonna blow his head off. They meticulously waited for him to disarm the machine, and they watched him open it up, pull the money out, and put the money into his armored truck bag, securing the deposits. Now, along with the AR-15 style rifle, they also had handguns, and they stripped the guard of his pistol as well. Along with the pistol, they also secured approximately $100,000 in cash, along with a bag of check deposits. Now, in the midst of this robbery, an accident is made. One of the pistols accidentally goes off, with one of the robbers verbally saying out loud, "Oh shit," for the armored guard to hear. But after it was all said and done, the 3 suspects jump back into the white Honda and flee eastbound on 120th, and then making a left northbound on Van Ness Avenue. Now, with this first robbery, the suspects drive back to West Adams and the police head to Westcom. When the police cut the surveillance video on, they saw how the guard was on his knees. They saw the white Honda, and they see how all of the suspects are completely covered up. But when they get the footage from the small camera that's located on the ATM, they find their first lead. While the individual with the AR-15 is holding the guard down and they stripping him, his shirt lifts up from the back and the tattoo is exposed. It's a distinct star tattoo on his lower back, and the ATM footage shows him bending down to grab the money, and detectives get a clear look at this lower back tattoo. Along with that, they begin to canvass the area, and they locate a Ring camera off 119th and Haas Avenue in the 11-5 neighborhoods. And at 8:34 in the morning, on this Ring camera, 10 minutes before the robbery, they find a white sedan matching the description of the Honda used at the Westcom Bank. But they also find the lead car, a white Chevy Tahoe. But with nobody being identified at the Westcom, the white sedan being a stolen vehicle, and them not being able to identify plates on the Tahoe right before the robbery, the police sit on their hands while the Chesapeake Bandits are in the West Boulevards dividing up the money. But it didn't take long for that money to pop up in some flexing on YouTube. And on March 8th, 2022, JD, again, who also goes by ABM Jesus, makes his rap debut with All Blue Hunnids. But it's more than what meets the eye to this music video. Not only is it just weeks after the first robbery at Westcom, we get introduced to some other players in the game. Zeph Rocco from East Coast and the Barber, D. Isaac Jones, is also in the music video. Along with them, some crispy $100 bills and a distinct money bag that would later come into question in possession of JD.
Sitting in the cool counting all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids. Sitting in the cool counting all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids. Sitting in the cool counting all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids. Sitting in the cool counting all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids, all blue hunnids.
Now, while JD is trying to jumpstart his rap career, Nobby has been doing maintenance on the tools used in these robberies. Immediately after the move at Westcom, he's in communication with an individual in the paperwork known as Lil Calvin Relly. Unbeknownst to the feds, Lil Calvin is the individual that Nobby has been in communication with for months in regards to the firearms. He's had multiple conversations about buying AR-15s and pistols from Lil Calvin. But on the night of the Westcom robbery, Nobby has deemed a pistol that was shot by accident as being bad. He offered the pistol to Lil Calvin. Calvin asked how much he wanted for it. He said $800, and he asked, is it all the way bad? Nobby replies that it's not all the way bad. It was just shot during a get down. No bodies on it, but Nobby don't want it. Lil Calvin immediately starts to look for a buyer, but gotta switch things up because he thought it had a body on it. But while the police are still struggling to identify everybody at the Westcom robbery, the Chesapeake Bandits set their sights a half a mile away from Westcom at the Bank of America on 116th and Crenshaw Boulevard. Now, the armored truck of choice at this location was Loomis. This bank was serviced every Thursday, and it was the first stop in Loomis's route due to this location being set as high risk. Again, this is Crenshaw on 116th, right outside of Imperial Village, blocks away from the Inglewood families and the Avenue Pyrus. But the other concern from Loomis is the layout. It's right off Crenshaw Boulevard. There's a wraparound parking lot directly next to the branch, and where the Loomis truck has to go to service the ATM is extremely accessible to the neighborhood directly behind the branch in the Imperial Village Crips. It's a lot of blind spots in this area, and Loomis took note of that. But the Chesapeake Bandits, still doing somewhat of an okay job. They've made it all the way to Thursday, June 9th, 2022. 4 months after the Westcom robbery, they arrived to the Bank of America shortly before 8 in the morning. This is when the Loomis truck driver named Samuel is inside of the driveway, servicing the ATM, doing the same thing that the individual at Westcom was doing, disengaging the ATM and taking the deposits out of the machine. A silver Chevy Equinox pulls up directly behind the Loomis vehicle, and in the same fashion as Westcom, 3 suspects jump out. Now, Nobby, just like at the Westcom robbery, takes the lead. He comes from the passenger side of the armored vehicle, points the assault rifle directly at Samuel, and tells him not to move. He then tells him to put his hands on his head, and he takes his pistol out of his holster. Nobby then takes the keys off of Samuel's keychain and unlocks the armored car for the other suspects to pop inside of it. And as the other suspects start to go through the truck, they realize the money seemed a little short. Nobby pushes Samuel to the floor and starts asking him where the rest of the money at before his teeth get knocked out. Samuel said there was no more money, and Nobby kicks him. And as the group runs back to the Chevy Equinox, they make off with $92,840 in cash. But just like the first robbery, cookie crumbs were left behind. Around 10 minutes after the robbery at Bank of America, police receive a 911 call at Century Park Elementary School on 109th and Spinning Avenue, just a few blocks northeast of the Bank of America. At 8 o'clock in the morning, a witness stated that they observed 3 males covered in black ski masks, black clothing, armed with a handgun and an assault rifle, exchanging a backpack. The witness also stated that the males were in a white truck and another white 4-door vehicle. Detectives then do what they did at Westcom, surveillance the neighborhood, and they come up on Ring camera footage. When they pop it on, they see yet again a white Chevy Tahoe, accompanied by the Chevy Equinox used at the crime scene. Now with this information, they head back over to the Bank of America and start reviewing that footage. They see the whole get down that morning. They also see how the bandits zip-tied Samuel while they ransacked the truck. But they took it a step further. They rewinded the clock back to the night before the robbery. And this is when they get the best angle, showing the plates of the white Chevy Tahoe that was occupied by Nobby and Puda when they were casing the Westcom Bank. Now this would be the Fed's first introduction to Chesapeake Avenue in the West Boulevards in regards to these robberies. And this is when they start getting acquainted with the Chesapeake Bandits. Now with the Chevy Tahoe being registered to Puda, he immediately starts off as their prime suspect. Now as they lay eyes on him on Chesapeake Avenue, they realize that his build resembles that of suspect number 1, observed at the bank robbery at Westcom on February 14th, 2022. And this is when everything adds up for the federal agents in regards to them casing the bank 2 weeks prior. And their first plan of action, with the Chevy Tahoe now coming up 3 times, they put a GPS tracker on Puda's truck. But with Puda's West Boulevard ties and him not being alone when he was pulled over leaving Westcom on the casing, it didn't take long for them to start looking at Nobby. And by June 30th, 2022, 3 weeks after the Bank of America robbery, the GPS tracking device is installed on the Tahoe and they begin to match Nobby's build to suspect 2 at the Westcom robbery and suspect number 2 at the Bank of America robbery. As they begin to track his movements between June and July of 2022, they notice he's been driving a white Chevy Impala registered to his girlfriend who he was living with. They then apply to put a GPS tracker on Nobby's girlfriend's vehicle. But as they study the Westcom footage a little bit more, now that they're introduced to their main 2 suspects, they begin looking at suspect 3, who jumped out of the white Honda at Westcom. Now Nobby and Puda have an older brother by the name of Dennis Hobson, who's also from West Boulevard. In an internal federal email regarding the search warrants and the initial stages of this investigation, they state that Nobby's sibling, Dennis Hobson, closely resembles suspect 2, observed in the bank's video surveillance footage as being involved in the robbery. They noted that Dennis is seen in multiple social media posts having a close relationship with both Nobby and Puda. And the feds think this is a full family affair. But as the feds expected with the GPS tracking device, a day after they installed it on the Tahoe, Puda's in motion. At 6:36 p.m. July 1st, 2022, he's on Century Boulevard, what the feds say is casing Schools First Credit Union. Schools First is also going to be serviced by Sectrans Security, the same armored truck that services Westcom. A little over 2 weeks later, July 18, 2022, at 5:45 p.m., they follow Puda to a California credit union, also alleging that he was casing that bank as well. Now, after following Puda for the last few weeks, notice that he's going to multiple banks and has been at multiple banks. The FBI begins to subpoena his financial records. They subpoenaed accounts for Baxter Credit Union and his Zelle. The BCU account showed that he used the Westcom ATM multiple times to withdraw money. And it also showed them that he had an account with Ally Bank. So when they took this information to Westcom, Westcom replied that he did not have an account with them. He was using his Cash App card to withdraw money from BCU out of the Westcom ATM. It also showed that he didn't have a Schools First or California Credit Union account, thus raising more questions as to why he was at those banks when the feds were following him. Now, as we see, the feds have become hyper-focused on Nabi and Puda. The other individuals of the crew have seemingly kept themselves hidden for now. But while this investigation is starting to open up, August 4th, 2022, Thursday morning, the Hustlers Casino in Gardena is robbed. Another armored security truck, but this time things didn't go off as smooth. It had the same MO as the Chesapeake Bandits. The truck had just arrived at the casino, positioned to pick up the deposits. When the two guards got out of the truck, they were approached by at least two suspects, and gunfire was exchanged. One of the guards was hit, and the robbers got into the armored vehicle, making away with over $1 million. Now, at this time, there was no indication that the Chesapeake Bandits were behind this. But if they were, this was the biggest take of their run. And this is where they also start to get greedy. 2 weeks after the casino move, Nabi is in communication with his girlfriend's son, who was 17 years old at the time, about different casings. He spoke about Clark and Alondra, a Loomis armor vehicle. And just like his communications with Lil Calvin, he's also talking about guns. And this was the Chesapeake Bandits starting to gear up for their next move. A month later, September 15, 2022, a Brinks armored truck at PLS check cashers right outside the West Boulevards off La Brea and Jefferson. At 12:20 in the afternoon, a Brinks truck worker by the name of Reginald is here on his scheduled route off of La Brea, dropping money off to the PLS check cashers. Reginald exits the vehicle. In hand, he has the Brinks bag with money in it, about to walk inside. This is when he sees a gray Ford Explorer, black trim, no license plates, parked in the parking lot. He then notices a green laser pointed right at his chest, and then he feels a gun pressed up against his shoulder. Like clockwork, 3 suspects with zip ties in hand, matching the same descriptions as the past robberies, strips Reginald of his gun and his keys. This is when Reginald states that he starts receiving confusing commands. One person is telling him to sit down, another's telling him to stand up, and somebody else saying to get on your knees. When they grab the keys, they try to get into the Brinks truck, but they're having problems. This is when one of the suspects ups a machine gun style weapon, and another suspect had to tell him to shoot Reginald 3 times since they were having trouble getting into the truck. Luckily for Reginald, they found their way into the truck, ransacked it, and all suspects jumped back into the Ford Explorer with $375,000 in straight cash. But the crazy part, the same white Chevy Tahoe led the Ford Explorer to the scene with the GPS tracker still on it. And it also led a separate getaway vehicle away from the scene within 30 minutes of the robbery. Now, 2 hours after their third move, like clockwork, they're back on Chesapeake in the West Boulevards. But this time, the feds are staking them out. They watch Puda take out the trash. They see him jump in the Tahoe, stop to talk to a neighbor before driving off. And with this stakeout, the FBI has finally caught the Chesapeake Bandits in the act on their third robbery. Now, they don't strike immediately. You know how the feds move. Very slow. They got a lot of time, especially when you playing with financial institutions. Those statute of limitations hit different. But just to make sure they on the right people, September 30th, 2022, 2 weeks after the PLS check robbery on La Brea, the FBI informs LAPD and the LA sheriffs that they need to take a look at Nabi. LA sheriff perform a routine traffic stop on Nabi and asks him to step out. Everything seems normal, but when they tell Nabi to turn around and lift his shirt up, a 5-point star tattoo is located on his lower back. The same tattoo seen all the way back on February 14th of that year, 2022, on the ATM camera when the robbers bent down to take the cash. They got a match.
That's why I'm like, God, I always admire tattoos, dude.
Everything.
Let me see all your shit. What about your brother? Your brother bang too?
Well, all my family's from the side.
Bro, I might even F on you. I'm just looking, man. It's not even a big thing. Let me see.
Blood makes sense. Your bro? Your brother? Or your homie?
This is my brother.
What else you have?
Yeah, I'm whole body.
God damn, bro.
I just told him I went
You
to
been in prison? I was about to say you been in prison.
I did.
No shit. What else? Come here. Let me see. Let me see all your shit. I promise I'm not putting none of this shit on paper.
Oh, dude, you're an SC fan?
Yeah.
Hey, none of this shit going on paper, bro. Let me see. Take your shit off. Cause I don't ever see people from fucking BPS over here. God damn, bro.
Oh, straight up, or pirates.
Black Keystone.
Black Keystone.
Yeah.
The pictures of Nabi's lower back are sent to the FBI, and they use feature recognition to match the surveillance camera image perfectly with Nabi's tattoo taken on his traffic stop. And on October 18, 2022, FBI, LAPD, Inglewood PD, and Hawthorne PD serve a search warrant on Chesapeake Avenue, as well as Nabi's girlfriend's house where he was staying at. And this is when Nabi meets the federal agent that's been chasing him down. Special Agent Elizabeth Cardenas took it upon herself to meet with Nabi when they kicked his door in. But she took it a step further. She got Nabi in the backseat of an unmarked vehicle and secretly recorded an interview between them.
Okay, so I don't really want to BS you about why we're here. We're here because of the armored car robberies. Like I told you before, we're not only talking to you, we're talking to some of your family, at a couple other places. So I know, like, if your family's involved, you know, I know how that is. I want you to know that we're here because we had to take a lot of steps to make sure we were sure that we were at the right place, talking to the right people. So before I kind of ask you any questions, I just want you to have that in mind, that for a Fed investigation, we have to be very thorough.
Oh, I know.
You know, and I wouldn't
Trust
feel
that.
comfortable coming here and doing all that if I didn't feel sure that I was at the right place.
I got you.
So we do have enough surveillance footage, cell records, surveillance efforts, vehicles. Unfortunately, so today you're not under arrest. We won't be taking you, not because we're not sure, but because on the Fed side they make us kind of go through some steps.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, there's some people that are robbing armored cars.
Of course.
That are coming out guns a-blazing.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
I don't think that's you.
Fuck no.
I don't think that's you.
Nah.
I see that and I'm like,
nah.
that is the most reckless,
Yeah, very
young,
reckless. Very
inexperienced
reckless.
thing
Very.
I have ever seen.
Very.
Especially to get
Yeah.
no money sometimes.
But Chesapeake Avenue gave them everything they could ask for. A surveillance camera system that watched everything over the past year. And James Davis Sr., Puda's father, Nabi's stepfather, provided the FBI with the passwords to the camera. Now, the DVR system consisted of several cameras located at the Chesapeake property. The only caveat was that it didn't go back past March of 2022. So they didn't get the Westcom robbery, but they flicked it straight to June 8, 2022, the Bank of America robbery on Crenshaw and 116th. The night before the robbery at 11 p.m., the silver Chevy Equinox that was used at the robbery makes an appearance in the West Boulevards. It slows down in front of the house, and 5 minutes later, Puda emerges and is seen speaking with two unidentified males, one of them wearing a security guard uniform. The other unidentified male was wearing some Jordans, resembling those worn by Suspect 2 in the Bank of America robbery. At 11:59 p.m., the white Chevy Tahoe makes an appearance, and it drives off Chesapeake, followed by the Equinox. On the day of the Bank of America robbery, at 2:45 p.m., a few hours after it occurred, Puda pulls up in the white Tahoe, and he's wearing different shoes than the ones he left wearing, and now he's carrying a white plastic grocery bag. He goes to the backyard, placed the bag under a table, then he came back later and placed it carefully in a trash can. They popped the camera onto the PLS robbery off La Brea and Jefferson. September 14, 2022, 12:59 p.m. Puda again pulls up in the Tahoe. And later that night, the gray Ford Explorer, the vehicle that they jumped out of when they pointed that green laser. And on the day of the robbery, about 25 minutes before it occurred, September 15, 2022, surveillance camera again shows Puda. And it also shows Nabi wearing black sweatpants and the same shoes worn by Suspect 2 in the robbery. Now on this day, they seen Nabi pull up in a white Honda Accord, resembling the same vehicle used in the Westcom robbery back in February of 2022. And 15 minutes before the robbery, it shows the Westcom Honda the gray Ford Explorer, and the Chevy Tahoe spinning off Chesapeake Avenue, which was 0.7 miles away from the target location. But even with all this footage, the Chesapeake Bandits weren't done. Now, even though the DVR did not contain any evidence of this crew being on Chesapeake at the time of the Westcom robbery, Special Agent Cardenas still pressed Nobby in the backseat of that car. She boxed him in with irrefutable evidence that him and his people was behind that robbery.
So I want to talk to you first about the February 14th Valentine's Day robbery. So at Westcom, we have you and your brother on video about 3 weeks prior.
Okay.
You're taking pictures of the driver the same exact time that the robbery happens on the 14th. And the way you're talking to me about what happened with that other robbery, I'm like, damn, because I could see this happening again. And I'll show you why. That's your tattoo right there. That's your back. That's your hip. This is the surveillance video from the February 14th robbery. I'll show you the picture from... Like I said, I'm not going to BS you and tell you things I have if I don't have it. This is you and your half-brother, James. He goes by something else. So, we're talking to him right now. We're talking to your dad. We're talking to your other brother.
3 months after the Chesapeake house is raided, we right outside the West Boulevards again, in the Biddy Stones, off Crenshaw and Obama. At 7:15 in the morning, a Brinks armored truck is doing its rounds. This is 1.5 miles away from the Bank of America and PLS check cashers. Everything is close by. When the Brinks truck employee arrives, an individual known in the paperwork as FV, he says when he jumped out, he saw a black sedan, which turned out to be a black Kia K5. 2 men jump out of the Kia holding guns. They order FB to the ground and tell him to lay down face down. Like clockwork, they remove his pistol from his holster and they take his keys and his money bag. Surveillance video from inside of the Brinks truck showed the suspect grabbing money out of the truck with what the feds say was a similar build to the individual that went inside the Brinks truck at PLS back in September of 2022. After getting out the Brinks truck, both the suspects jumped back into the Kia K5 with the driver waiting. An undisclosed amount of money was taken on this robbery on January 9th of 2023. And the Chesapeake Bandits thought they were smarter than the police after already being caught for the 3rd robbery. The feds pulled the plug after this last one. In a little bit over a month, they bust back into Chesapeake and again collect more surveillance footage. And this time on February 21st, 2023, Denavis Hobson, also known as Nobby from BPS, is taken down by the feds. Now, the feds went ahead and cut the surveillance camera on to this 99-cent store robbery. Yet again, it showed the white Tahoe with the Kia K5. Later in the evening after the robbery, a large male whose build is consistent with Puda's is seen getting out of the Kia. They also see the Ford Explorer making another appearance, the same one used at the La Brea robbery. And the feds got 2 out of 5 members of the Chesapeake Bandits all the way sold up. Now, when they went to take Puda down, they caught him in traffic and pulled up to the side of the car. Puda rolled the window down, started talking shit, and ended up doing the dash on the feds. They ended up putting up a $25,000 reward. And when they sniffed him out, they put together a tactical operation plan. They laid out the floor plan where they believed him to be at. They also mapped out the closest hospital just in case they had to fire him up. He was ducked off by the Ontario Mills Mall, and a team of FBI, gang unit, and Metro LAPD took Puda down without incident on March 8th of 2023. But what the feds didn't know is that the remaining members of the Chesapeake Bandits, JD, Zeph, and D. Isaac, were still looking to run that bag up. But 3 weeks after Puda goes down, March 23rd, 2023, the feds get a phone call, and it's what's referred to as a tipster. But we're gonna keep it clean. This was a confidential witness with the initials of J.A., somebody who was very close to the West Boulevards and still has not been uncovered. J.A. stated that he wanted to talk to the FBI. He stated that he recognized Puda's mannerisms based on news coverage. And he said Puda is the one that's been hitting the ATMs. Now, J.A. never mentioned Nabi's name, even though him and Puda are brothers. But he said he also recognized other mannerisms of other individuals, alluding to Zeph Rocco and J.D. And he said those members have also participated in these armored truck robberies. The confidential witness also told the FBI that Puda was a part of a criminal group who would meet daily on Chesapeake Avenue. And he recounted one time where the group had hit an ATM and somebody was complaining about only getting $5K. So this is somebody who is very close to not only the West Boulevards on Chesapeake, but also very close to the Chesapeake Bandits as a robbery crew. This is somebody that was probably participating, and he was probably the individual that was mad about having a shortcut, and now he's on the Fed's line. Again, this man has the initials of J.A., and at the time that he called the FBI, he had previous arrests for theft and inappropriate crimes against a child. This is a bad dude. But again, with Puda and Nabi out of the picture in February and in March of 2023, it's time for the back-end players to step up. On the morning of June 10th, 2023, 3 months after the top 2 members go down, a Brinks armored truck is pulling up on Florence and Crenshaw at the 7-Eleven. It's broad daylight, a busy intersection, and as the Brinks guard is coming out of the business, an older model Lexus SUV pulls up with J.D. Young jumping out the passenger seat in a white painter suit holding an assault rifle. The Isaac Jones and Zeph Rocco are also in attendance. They jump out on this Brinks truck, and it takes them less than 20 seconds to get what they came over here for. They pushed the driver to the ground, took the bag of cash. JD kept the rifle pointed while saying, "Let's go," and hurry up. The Lexus, which was registered to an Arkansas business, was found abandoned in a nearby alley. But the remaining crew members only got away with $15,000 on this move. But with the pressure building up, they know that the feds are closing in. 17 days later, June 27, 2023, JD, Zeph, and D. Isaac strike again. This time, they went all the way to Reseda, to a Taco Bell off Reseda Boulevard. The stolen vehicle of choice this time was a Toyota CHR, but it had West Boulevard written all over it. It was stolen just hours before in the West Adams neighborhood. Now, during this 17-day stint, where the remaining bandits pulled off 2 robberies, J.D. Young had been pulled over, and he was arrested on suspicion of possessing a gun as a felon. Inside his truck, police found more than $10,000 in cash, and what they call similar to the manner in which Brinks bundles their money. JD told the officers he'd recently bought the truck and moved into a new apartment in Windsor Hills. But JD was already familiar to the feds. When they combed through Nabi and Puda's phones, they found that they were communicating with JD during the previous robberies. And when detectives got JD's phone, the warrant showed that he was near the 7-Eleven off Crenshaw and Florence, and in the area of the Taco Bell just a week after the robbery on Crenshaw and Florence, casing the Taco Bell before the heist.
Crash get behind me. 200 on the dash. Do you think they can catch me? Nah. If they can't catch me, no, they can't find me. I am so icy. Posted in the hood with the burner at the top.
Now, while the police are gathering information, trying to stick JD all the way into the feds with Nabi and Puda, a final robbery that was linked to the Chesapeake Bandits took place on October 16th. Another Brinks driver, another ATM in South LA. And with that going down, detectives geared up to take down JD Young. But before they could get to him, somebody else did. On December 20th, 2023, 4 o'clock in the morning, JD is laying on his side on Fairfax Avenue with a bullet to the head. Fairfax wasn't the crime scene. They figured out that JD was killed at another location, and he was dumped on the side of the road at the end of the Chesapeake Bandit run. Now, if you ask me, this is not a coincidence. A couple months before this, JD is arrested. The police go through his phone. He's in contact with people that are sitting in the feds. A lot of money is on the table, and JD ends up dead. Now, it's not abundantly clear if the back door was all the way open. Everything indicates to it being that way, but we gotta remember, the West Boulevards are still in some beef. But either way, how the feds see it, now that he was out the way, it was time to take down the next member of the Chesapeake Bandits. When they continued to look through JD's phone, they found communications between him and Zeph Rocco. These specific communications were during the 7-Eleven robbery on Florence and Crenshaw and the Taco Bell robbery on Reseda Boulevard. When they took a closer look into Zeph, his iCloud account depicted photographs of guns resembling those used in the robberies. Zeph also shared a picture of him having a large amount of money on the same day as the Taco Bell robbery. And with Zeph being suspected of being involved in multiple robberies, at 3:30 a.m., March 21st, 2024, LAPD robbery, homicide, and SWAT are outside of Zeph's apartment in Reseda. They noted that Zeph was armed and dangerous. He's been seen with AR-15 style rifles with enhanced optics, high-capacity magazines, and armor-piercing ammunition, so they took no chances with Zeph. After pulling up the Bearcat, they used the bullhorn to call Zeph at 4:47 in the morning. He's in apartment 308, and they're at the door knocking on it. Zeph didn't answer, and the police called his phone 17 times. When he answered, he still sounded asleep. The police identified themselves and told him to come out and surrender. He hung up. This is when SWAT put the drone in the air, as Zeph was on the 3rd floor to try to get a better look inside his unit. And this is when Zeph Rocco climbed onto the roof, grabbed the police drone, and threw it off the roof before returning back to his apartment. After a 2-hour standoff, 5:10 a.m., Zeph Rocco climbs over the 3rd-story balcony, armed with an assault rifle, and he jumps off. He took a 35-foot dive, and after hitting the ground, he lost control of the rifle. As officer body cam depicts, Zeph begins reaching to the rifle, attempting to manipulate it and fire on the officers. And as he rose to his knees, the police put a bullet in Zeph Rocco's head, killing him. After a 2-hour standoff, the 4th member wrapped up in the Chesapeake Bandits robbery crew.
Hey, he's climbing down. He's climbing down. Hey, get back inside. Get back inside. He's got a gun. Don't reach for it. Don't reach for it. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Stop reaching for it. Stop reaching for it. Don't move.
Now, when they reached Zeph, they still handcuffed him, shipped him off in the ambulance, and when they searched his house, they found a modified AR-15, amongst other weapons, similar to the ones used in the robberies. Now, still sitting in the feds, Puda and Nabi are now moved through the legal system. While Nabi is in custody, he's caught on the jail phone. He's talking to an unidentified man, and he spoke about how there was another robbery that they didn't get charged for. The $1 million robbery at Hustlers Casino. Over the federal line, Nabi took responsibility for that robbery. He said that was the Chesapeake Bandits on the play. Now, 3 months after Zeph took a bullet to the head, Rose called it quits. He takes a plea deal. He took responsibility as being the lookout for the Westcom robbery. Mind you, if it wasn't for that robbery, they may have never ended up in this situation sitting in the feds in the first place. That initial encounter where they were casing the bank wrapped them up beyond a reasonable doubt. With confidential witnesses making statements on Puda, he had nowhere to turn. He tried to use the caveat that we spoke about earlier in the video, the fact that some of the money technically didn't belong to a federal institution. By winning that argument, that would decrease Puda's points in his federal sentencing guidelines. But it didn't seem to work. On June 7, 2024, James Davis Jr., also known as Puda, received a 166-month sentence and $166,000 in restitution for the robberies committed in the city of LA. But his brother wasn't happy. He was caught on the phone speaking to their cousin in what the feds say was a scare tactic, trying not to get Puda to take a deal because he wanted to take the trial. Puda's admission of guilt would paint Nabi in a specific light that would be unfavorable for a jury. But nonetheless, he still showed up for a jury trial November 2024. Now, besides the casing, the straw that broke the camel's back in this whole situation was Nabi's back tattoo. That's what the prosecution hung their hat on. Nabi was a member of BPS. He has a 5-point star, but a familiar name was called by the defense to help Nabi, Alex Alonso from Street TV. Alex was called as an expert gang witness to prove the defense's allegation that the United States government had tunnel vision when focusing on Nabi and not taking into account that other members of BPS and Hoover and other hoods throughout LA would also don the same star tattoo. His secondary defense was to throw his brother under the bus His lawyer claimed that he was just a passenger when they cased Westcom at the beginning of this investigation. His lawyer stated that it was Puda's idea to case the bank. Nabi was just along for the ride. And the Chesapeake Bandits did a good job with turning their cell phones off before the move. The only time the cell phones were on was when they were pulled over for the casing. But the feds pulled in a cellular analyst, and he spoke about what's called a timing advance. That's how the cell tower calculates the distance the phone is from that specific tower. And this is how they still link individuals to a crime once their phone is turned back on after the crime takes place. And this is how they prove Nabi's location being at the scene of the robbery. None of his defenses worked, and Nabi was found guilty in his jury trial November 19, 2024. Now, with him already being on parole at this time, this wasn't a good look. He tried to blame it on cocaine being in the system when he was born, his mother being a drug addict, and child services removing him and Dennis from the home when he was 10 years old. But it all fell on deaf ears. This year, May 29, 2026, Nabi was sentenced to 308 months in federal prison. Since he was 15, he's only seen 3 years of the outside world. And with this sentence, he'll more than likely never see it again. Now, when it comes to the last player, the barber, Isaac Jones, he was arrested October 27, 2025. But his problems came when his DNA was found in the getaway vehicle used on the robberies with Zeph and JD. Now, he seemingly dodged the feds. This was a state case. But this year, June 29, 2026, the same day Nabi was sentenced, he was sent to a level 4 state prison, convicted on his charges of robbery as the last member of the Chesapeake Bandits. Now, as you see, a lot of mistakes were made, but this was some high-level shit. 3 out of 5 of these dudes previously were sitting down for extended periods of time to perfect their craft. And if what Nabi was saying was true, and that they were on the Hustler Casino robbery, they struck for $1.5 million in straight cash. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned for the rest of the series. This is How to Rob by the Best Hood channel on YouTube. We out.